And it's a very good morning to the Gelding on this New Year's Day. Gelding, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of our viewers. And racing returns to Flemington today.
Good morning, Professor. Yes, good morning to all our listeners and a Happy New Year. Let's hope everyone has a very profitable year, Professor, and maybe we can talk a bit later on the show about what a profitable year for 2024, Professor.
Yeah, very much so, Gelding.
I look forward to you dropping a few stats for us.
Okay. 8-race card today at Flemington. Gelding, you're surprised that it's not a 10-race card?
Again, the racing club bamboozled me, Professor. Here we are at headquarters, Flemington, on a public holiday. So a main meeting of the day, and they've got 2 listed races for 175, and the rest of it's being treated as a midweek program, Professor. $65,000 for 6 races. So they're saying this isn't a metropolitan meeting, aren't they?
Well, it's akin to that, isn't it?
I would say ridiculous. I would have thought New Year's Day, which, you know, had the listed Bagot Stakes and also has a, used to have a sprint race, but now it's a 1,400 sprint race, a listed race. And the rest of the meeting is just, oh, well, boys, we're a country meeting. So why have it at Flemington?
So feature races, Gelding, race 4, the Kensington Stakes, and race 8, the Bagot Handicap. You rightly point out they're both worth $175,000. They're both listed races. Gelding, my big bugbear, race 4, one of the feature races on the card. It's not in the quadrella. Not in the daily double either.
Race 5 and 7 should be the daily double. Race 5 should be the first leg of the quaddie. If you're going to have 2 listed races, surely they should be the 2 major races, Professor, and be included in the quadrella, wouldn't you? When you're getting quality horses, if you're going to treat it as a country meeting, why have 3 legs of country races when you can have 2 listed type races?
So, Gelding, answer me this, if you can. What would be the thinking behind the people who are putting the program together of putting a major race at race 4? I don't understand it. There must be a good reason, though, Gelding, and if you don't know, that's fine. But what do we think would be the good reason for it?
Professor, you're trying to ask me a logical question from a racing club. What have we said in the past? We've got to take it out of the hands of these committees, really. A joke of a meeting, apart from 2 listed races. If you're just going to have, benchmark racing on the premier racetrack in the Southern Hemisphere, the premier race day racing of Metropolitan being New Year's Day, every public holiday Flemington used to be a major meeting, didn't it?
Yes.
This mob has just changed history, and all I will say to that, Professor, how much money have they lost the last 4 years? 70 million?
Yes, Gelding. Whatever they're doing is working.
Now, Eddie Everywhere said they're doing a fantastic job during the Spring Carnival. Well, all I can say is that I probably disagree with that statement. And as I said, looking for hype class 101, this should be a metropolitan race meeting. Every race should be 130,000. Let's attract the better quality horses. 8-race program. First leg of the double, first leg of the quaddie is the first listed race. Race 7, the main race of the day, should be the Bagot Handicap. The second the feature, and a race with over 100 years of
history,
Professor. And you've got a committee made basically of a bunch of blips who have just do whatever they want. But let me say one thing, Professor. I'm sure they'll have a lovely day by feeding themselves and drinking themselves on New Year's Day in the committee room.
Well, they'll be celebrating, Gelding, the New Year.
And they'll be sitting there patting themselves on the back, each in a round circle, saying, "Aren't we doing a fantastic job?"
Now, Gelding, we were talking about moving races around. Now, we know there's another racing club who decided some years ago to change the way they were going to run the races. And did I see that the committee have said this year, in 2024, that, we made a mistake there. We should never have changed it in the first place. Now, I remember when you and I were talking about it way back on That's Racing when it was changed, Gelding, we said, well, why are they doing that? That's ridiculous. Why are you changing how things historically occur? Because they thought it was a better thing to do. And guess what? They were wrong.
Professor, same thing again. The Very Amateur Turf Club, I think they're $180 million in the red, aren't they?
Yes, but they're selling some land, Gelding. They're going to get back to square.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you, Professor. Their main business is running races, right?
Yes.
At running races, they've lost $168 million. So let's sell off. Does it remind you of Jeff Kennett? I'll sell everything off.
Yeah.
Geez, I'll look good. Like, really?
Doesn't work,
How hard is it to sell land in Caulfield?
Yeah, exactly, Gelding. Well, let me say this, Gelding. If we're talking about the Kennett government selling or privatising utilities to square the books, that doesn't work, because guess what? When we look at the books today, the books don't balance. And guess what?
You don't own anything.
Well, we've got nothing to sell anymore. Or there's less to sell.
Jesus, imagine on the soapbox. Imagine one at SEC instead of multiple 12 different electricity companies in Victoria. Board of Works, one body running water instead of 27 different bodies running water. Let's have gas and fuel. Oh, sorry. The president says now we shouldn't use gas. After 10 years ago, they had the big introduction saying gas would be cheap, and we're selling it overseas cheap. What would be the price of gas, electricity, and water if we have
still public utilities? We'd be a lot better off, Gelding.
Common sense, Professor.
Yeah, just common sense. Common sense 101.
They should put a bag on, or a gag on all politicians. If they can see money, they'll spend it.
Yeah. All right, Gelding, we better we're both up on the soapbox today, so we better, that's our New Year's Day soapbox. We'll get down off it. Now, Gelding, what are your two? I should mention that the track's currently rated good 4, but who knows what the weather conditions are going to be. It could well rain later in the afternoon, so punters should just keep an eye on the track, and the rail's in the true position.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny day, isn't it, Professor? A bit overcast where I am. I'm not sure what it's like there, but look, hopefully the sun can break out, Professor, and hopefully a nice summer's day. I think we're tipping around the 22 degrees. Let's hopefully for everyone at Flemington that can occur, and we miss the rain. So let's hope. But as I said many, many times before, Professor, Flemington Racecourse, best race meeting, best race ground or track in the Southern Hemisphere, Professor. So let's hope for a bit of even racing.
Your two best bets for today, Gelding?
Well, Professor, going race 4. First tips is running by in the listed Kensington Stakes race. It's race 4, number 2, running by. round about the $384, Professor. Trained by Kieran Ma, being ridden by Sally Osborne, who's over here from England, riding. Professor riding well, but just a little worried about Sally Osborne. Would prefer a Jamie Carr aboard or a Blake Shin, but or a Craig Williams. But let's see how that goes. This horse has won 2 of its last 4 starts, Professor. Last start, it ran second, beaten a neck before Modam, which is also in the race. Professor started favourite, drops a kilo. It's got a 33% win rate, Professor, 67 place rate. Everything favours by me. Kieran Mara especially liking it. So race 4, number 2. Hopefully you can get $4. Nice each way odds, Professor. And we'll go running by. The second pick is race 6, horse 3, Professor, in the Bagot Handicap, the main race of the day. Again, going a Kieran Ma horse. Professor going one, standing out round about the $7 mark in race 6, number 3, Interpretation. Again, Kieran Ma, Sally Osborne. Look, this horse ran 15th in the Melbourne Cup. Kieran Ma has freshened it up over the last 8 weeks, dropping back from the Group 1 into the listed case. Professor, the start before the Melbourne Cup, which shows what a quality horse this horse is. It ran second in the Geelong Cup, beaten by the horse that started favourite in the Cup, Professor, in One Smooth Operator. So I thought it was a fantastic run. Over 2,800, freshened up after a bit of a failure in the Melbourne Cup. But I think we can give it an excuse on that in the Group 1, Professor. And, at 7-1, I think it's a great each-way bet. Race 6, number 3, Interpretation. So, Professor, I'm going race 4, number 2, Running By. Race 6, number 3, Interpretation. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm gonna bookend the meeting. Go with race 1, the TAB we're on stakes.
Is it my turn for the bets, is it?
It's my turn for the bets, Gelding.
Oh God, blimey.
But the first race is at 1:10, Gelding, so I've got a bit of time. Got a bit of time up my sleeve. So it's a benchmark 70 for 3-year-olds, Gelding over 1,400 metres. I look in this one, horse number 7, Zarpo, coming out of barrier 8. It's had 3 starts for 1 win, so it's got a 33% win and place rating. Last start winner at Cranbourne over the same distance, Gelding. That took my eye. Same distance as today's race. Won by 5 lengths, Gelding. So showed a little bit of form there. Up in class, but that shouldn't be a worry. Liam Rawdon's in the saddle, and Simon Zara's trading. He's in career form, Gelding. Over his last 50, 14%, but his career win rate's 8%. So he's doing very well. And currently you can get 480 and 230.
Oh, I like it, Professor. In a very small field.
Yes, Gelding. That's also took my eye. So I think that could be one to watch. And also the other bookend, Gelding, in race 8, the New Year's Day Sprint. Benchmark 70 for 3-year-old horses and above, over 1,000 metres. I like this one, Gelding, and I think you do too. Horse number 4, Big Me, coming out of barrier 9. It's had 8 starts for 2 wins and 4 placings, so 25% win rate, 75% place rate. Last start second at Moonee Valley, Gelding, over almost the same distance. Why would anybody race over 955 metres? I don't quite get it. But, I don't quite know what we were trying to do there, but why wouldn't you have the extra 45 metres, Gelding?
Well, Professor, again, a race club. Decided. I'll just leave it at that.
Too many
be a
people.
standard
Too
answer,
many
isn't
people
it?
making decisions, Gelding.
Professor, you break me up sometimes. You ask me these questions without notice, and all I can say is, well, it's a race club.
That's racing, Gelding.
It is indeed.
All right, Gelding. So it's the highest rated horse in the field. Blake Shin's in the saddle, and we were talking about him before. He's got a 15% career win rate. Nick Ryan's training. He's also got a 15% career win rate. You can get $3.60 and $1.60 at the moment, Gelding. So nice each way odds there as well. So my two today, the bookends, race 1, horse 7, Zappo, race 8, horse 4, Big Me. Now, we were talking about facts and figures, Gelding. Last Saturday at Moonee Valley, we had a 50% win rate, 50% place rate. And what we might say is what could have been. There were two rides which we called questionable.
And from very, very good riders, Professor.
Yeah, I think there was no doubt that they were S-hit rides, Gelding.
Yeah, certainly weren't their best rides, Professor. I'll agree with that.
Now, Gelding, it's a big gripe of mine. I don't mind my horse being in the leaders, and you know when it comes around the corner and you're looking at the horses as they come around the corner, and you've picked a horse, but you know it's not travelling that well, right? You know it's not travelling that well. It's had a good run, but you just know it's not going to win. That's fair enough, because that was just a poor selection in picking the horse. But when you believe that the horse can win, and when you are too far from home and you look at where your horse is positioned, my big bugbear is you can cross your arms, look at the TV and say, well, I've done my money. There's no way known we are going to get anywhere in this race. Now, that's without knowing how well the horse can go, Gelding. You don't get to that part of it because it's just not positioned well enough to be able to be in the finish.
Agree completely with you, Professor. The good thing about facts and figures, everyone knows that a horse covers about 6 lengths in a second. So if you are placed when the jockey decides to place it in the back and you not use the horse arm, and then come around the turn and they're 10 lengths off the pace, they've got to run their last 400 metres almost 2 seconds faster than the horse in front, or the other horse has to deteriorate. So, but you've got to realise that your horse has got to run a second or a second and a half faster than the horses at the front over 400 metres. And it's clearly obvious, Professor, sometimes jockeys choose to take a position sometimes. Sometimes they're forced. I'm sure the stewards say that the jockeys must give the horse every chance to win. Well, let me tell you, when you're 10 lengths off them 400 metres from home, or at Moonee Valley, coming around the turn with 230 metres to go,
You're
and
in
you're
trouble.
6 lengths off them, you are not going to win the race or be competitive.
Here's another observation, not a question, Gelding, it's an observation. In a 3,000 metre race, Gelding, 3,000 metres. Now, we're often critical of jockeys who, as we like to say, and who Craig Robertson kindly gave us the way the jockeys describe it, got one pair too far back.
Yes.
Now, in a 1,400 metre race, in a 1,600 metre race, a 1,000 metre race, 1,200 metre race, you can get one pair too far back. In a 3,000 metre race, Gelding, if you've got the choice of being one pair too far back or 3 wide for the entire 3,000 metre race, which place is the better place to be? Because how far extra does a horse run over 3,000 metres when it's 3 out from the fence?
Common mathematics, Professor. Common mathematics. And the only reason we harp on it, right, is because this is a variable when we're doing our selections for our listeners. the variable is that if we have a named jockey, and they're very confident when they talk themselves up for a win, Professor, but we don't seem to hear from them after they ride not one of their better races. They're very keen to talk themselves up, but it seems to be acknowledged. No one, all the commentators, just don't seem to commentate on ordinary rides. And we can be accused of being grandstand jockeys, but all we're saying, we don't put ourselves up as professional riders and say we're very good riders. These guys do. And when they don't ride it well, everyone just goes, well, that's racing. Where are the stewards questioning, why wasn't this horse given every chance to win as it's supposed to? I don't know, Professor. Yeah. Let's
get down off the soapbox again, Gelding.
Yeah. No, well, our picks are made that we're going to get a reasonable ride. And that's all you want, isn't it?
Yep.
As you said, if we pick the wrong horse and it gets beaten, fair enough.
Happy to put my hand up for that, Gelding.
Don't let it get beaten by a bad ride.
Yeah. All right, Gelding, let's turn to the very successful Professor's Parlay. And I think we can say that in 2024, it was a very successful Professor's Parlay. We came home like a train, Gelding. We got the last 3 out of 4. Not a bad effort.
Oh, great effort, Professor. As I said, 30% is a good winning rate, so I'll be interested to see what you ended up with after the year.
All right, Gelding, last Thursday at Caulfield, we've still got to fix that one up because we were waiting on the results of the NFL on Saturday. Mrs. Chrissy came in second. We had that into the LA Chargers to beat the Patriots, which they duly did, into the LA Rams to beat the Cardinals, which they did. We had the place parlay, Gelding. It paid $11.75, which was more than money back. So
yep.
It's in the black. Saturday at Moonee Valley, we had My Temptation, which ran first, and we had that into the Rams to beat the Cardinals. The Rams won, and we had that into the Bills to beat the Jets, and the Bills slaughtered the Jets. And Gelding, $41.40 if you don't mind for the Professor's Parlay.
Well done, Professor. Pat yourself on the back.
So
a nice little Christmas present for our listeners.
It was, Gelding. So for 2024, we tipped the Professor's Parlay came in with a payday 26 times out of 55, so 47% to finish the year.
47% is just a huge percentage, Professor, alone just for horse picking. Then you add 2 other sports to it. Wow, fantastic result.
Well, and you can see $41.40 for a $5 investment. Paid 8 to 1, Gelding.
Yep. And it's popping up basically every second bet, Professor.
Yeah. All right, Gelding, today's Professor's Parlay, and hopefully we can get the new year off to a great start. Race 8, horse 4, Big Me, for all the reasons I gave earlier in the summary. And we'll parlay that into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing at home to beat the New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay 4th seeded in the NFC. They've won 9 from 16. They must win this one to qualify, Gelding. They averaged 29 points per game on offense against the 13th placed NFC New Orleans Saints. They've only won 5 games, Gelding, so it's a season to forget. They're going nowhere. They averaged 19 points per game on offense. The line's 13.5, Gelding, so even the bookies don't like them. That's almost 2 converted touchdowns. So at $1.11, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home represent good value. And we'll parlay that. I almost went for the Green Bay Packers, Gelding. But
your own team.
They don't have to win, Gelding.
All right.
And so they may be resting key players. So, it's a little bit like being one pair too far back. It's not a place you want to be.
Yes. The last round of footy, Professor.
Yeah, so we'll parlay this one into the Baltimore Ravens, Gelding, playing at home to beat the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns a terrible season. They've only won 3 games, Gelding. The Baltimore Ravens
have fallen off, haven't they?
They certainly have. The Baltimore Ravens need to win this game to remain on top because the Pittsburgh Steelers are breathing down their neck. The line, Gelding, 17.5 if you don't mind.
Oh, What, over two goals and a field goal?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. We're going more than that. So that's good enough for me. At $1.04. Look, what we say about the parlays is we're trying to pick legs that will get up, because the horse one's the one that is the key to it all, really.
Oh.
So today's New Year's Day Professor's Parlay, race 8, horse 4 at Flemington, Big Me. And we're parlaying that into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the New Orleans Saints, into the Green Bay Packers to beat the Chicago Bears. And hopefully we get off to a great start for 2025, Gelding.
Sorry, Professor, can I correct you? Is it the Ravens rather than the Packers?
Sorry, the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes. Maybe if we clear that up for our listeners.
Yes. Don't want to make a mistake there, Gelding. All right. Well, good luck for the first race for the new year, Gelding. And until Saturday,